It's time to fight. If you down to fight, then let's start the strike.
Got another great show here. I am so excited about these two guests. We got East Coast and West Coast. We got activity all over this country. And, seeing these types of things happening in this show that's going to spell out how you take on one of the biggest employers in the world, what you do to hold them accountable, and more importantly, how coworkers come together to hold them accountable. All the way from New York to California, it doesn't matter. It could be anywhere in between. This is where this kind of stuff can happen every single day over and over again. I'm being joined by Shaq and Arlene. Shaq from KSBD and Arlene from JFK 8. Boy, we really appreciate you guys coming on the show today and talking about your stories and these amazing examples of how you're holding Amazon accountable. Arlene, you guys had this pretty crazy situation happen where am I reading this right? Raw sewage? Like
Yes,
what
yes, it was.
happens? How does this happen? And clearly safety is a huge concern of workers in your space as well as workers in America as a whole.
Yes.
But to have
Mhm.
raw sewage kind of in our workplaces,
Yes.
unless you work for the city, in the sewage department, not something you expect. What happened?
On July 17, around 12, um, some coworkers came to me and told me we have an incident going on in the building. And it's like, okay, I work on the third floor, and this is on the ground floor on the south side. So it walked over, I'm over the balcony watching sewage, but it was not that intense. It was just clear at that time. And Amazon had the cleanup crew driving through and trying to sweep the sewage water away. And then they drove off. So that is contamination. So it was not that serious at that time.
Whoa, wait, hold on. They knew it was sewage, though, right?
Yes, it was. Yes, it
So
was.
whether it's
It's coming
clear
from
or not, there's some other stuff in the
it's
water.
sewage, right? So I went back over, and at that time, it was raw sewage with the tissue papers and the filth just coming out from the ground. And they still had the cleanup crew trying to solve this problem. In walking back, the stench that was coming from that sewage, from the ground floor, south side, to the third floor, it was intense. So I decided to go to the boss. And when reaching the office, I met a few workers there on my behalf. And in doing so, prior to that, I recorded what was happening. And they were going to assess HR was going to assess, and then they're going to assess, and they're going to say all excuses that they would not allow us out the building.
What's
And I
there
let
to
them,
assess? Right.
okay. And in doing so, I told them the smell is so high that it's coming upstairs to the third floor. And when I couldn't take it no more with the word assess and assess and assess, I pulled my phone. I said, there's nothing to be assessed. And I showed him the camera. I said, either you all do something about it now or we shut it down. And I just walked out the door. And in doing so, I circled back. I have to take the elevator. I got masks for my workers and I distributed masks. We still did not know what was happening. The best thing was to get a mask up from this stench. And before I had reached my department, on the intercom, the building is closed with pay. And this is what I look at. We don't have to reach for a crisis to get this done. The main thing is sewage. It have people have all different illness in the building. It does not work that way. So at that moment, we got the building shut down and walked out the building with pay. And that is how we occupied the building. Going forward, Amazon don't realize the harm they are doing to our workers. It don't have to take something drastic like that to make a decision. I understand it have to have meetings to get what they have to get to reach to that point. But when coming down to our workers, we have to take a stand. If it's one person, two person, three persons, getting together to solve a problem.
I
And this
love
is
your
where we did it.
I
This
love
is where we come. It was not a big, huge set of people. It was 6 of us. But the way how I demanded it, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, we have to leave this building. Whether you like it or not, we are walking. And that
yeah.
was just my opinion.
No, I don't even think it was an opinion. It was actual fact, right? Like this is
Yes.
you asserting yourself in that moment when that
Yes.
situation's happening and saying you either fix it now or we're shutting it down is the
Yes.
best way to handle it, and it's the most stern way to put the employer on notice and say you've got to
Yeah.
fix it immediately or we're shutting it down. Clearly they didn't
Yeah.
fix it immediately and they're kind of bouncing around and stuff, so you guys shut it
Hmm.
down and you did what you had to do and you had to get paid for it. I'm going to
Yes, we
shift
did.
over. I'm going to shift over to Shaq real quick and let him tell his story. And then what we're going to do is we're going to merge these things together because
Sure.
I'm going to tell you, like, my goodness, like, what's like raw sewage running around? Like, how, we're going to assess the situation. There's nothing to assess, man. There's
There's
toilet
nothing to
paper and there's
assess.
stuff all over the place.
No.
Like just evacuate the area, shut it down.
Mm.
Let's figure out what to do and then move on. Shaq, you had a similar story, obviously not with raw sewage, but something that's just as damaging as far as the smell is concerned. Why don't you tell us what happened over at KSBD?
Man, what happened at KSBZ is just I can say it's like the lowest I've ever seen a company stoop to, just disregarding the employees' feelings,
Mhm.
their safety, just their overall security. What we had was a fire that happened a couple miles down the way from our job, and on a Sunday, I was at home and I noticed
This was
on
September 2024, right?
yes, it was down the way there was a fire and we had a lot of winds at the time that were blowing in our direction. I had woke up on Sunday to find out that some of the workers were saying that the smell was kind of getting stronger and stronger at KSBD. And as it was going on, they were planning on trying to keep the building open, and they were kept complaining, letting them know like, hey, this is not good for the air quality in the building. Some of the air is coming in through from where the ramp area is, and we need you guys to figure out a solution to help us get through this, because if not, it's going to get worse and we're going to have to take action. They thought we were bluffing. They didn't think we were serious. So I came in that Monday on VET, and to my knowledge, like the smell all the way to drive there to work was just overwhelming. And me getting in the building, it smelled like the building itself was on fire.
Okay.
So it was just like being there and just kind of like seeing the frustration in everyone's face, like we can't work in these conditions.
Yeah, and I remember that time period because there were wildfires happening all over Southern
Mhm.
California. Specifically, the one you're talking about was very close to the facility.
Yes.
Describe what the sky looked like. What was that? I mean, it looked like hell.
I mean, the sky itself, it seemed like from my vantage point, just walking in the morning, it seemed like the sun was going down.
That's
It
right.
seemed like it was like closing into nighttime, but in reality, it was broad day.
Yeah, and you guys logistically were just a couple miles away, and then you were right in the wind's path from where the fire had started to when it was obviously blowing right through that canyon, landing right on the airport, hitting the building. Really, the whole region was in bad shape, but specifically, it was hitting you guys really hard. And so you guys get a bunch of your coworkers together, and then what do you do?
We had just the overall idea was we had kind of noticed at some point, going into our breaks that, even the stairways were smelling like they were on fire. And it was just so overwhelming by each hour, it just kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And we kept asking them, like, as far as this air quality protocol you guys have, where's air quality at right now? They kept saying it was fine, but it's like you can clearly see and like smell the smoke was just getting stronger and stronger. And even at some point, me walking through the building, it seemed like the building itself was being covered in smoke because it was really kind of like fuzzy, hardly can see a little bit here and there, certain areas. And it was just like, what are you guys planning on doing? And they just kept saying, like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Just go
They
back to
said they
work.
were assessing the situation, right? Like
Yes.
Arlene said.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, they just kept assessing, but to our knowledge, we knew it wasn't what
Yeah, they
were
wanted
saying
you to
was
work
correct.
right through it, just like they
Yes.
wanted them to work through it.
Yes. So what our idea was, and my idea was, I had just started, asking everybody like, what do you guys want to do about this? Because this right here is a very serious situation. We have people in here that have lung problems, heart disease, kidney
Mhm.
failure, just a bunch of different asthmas, chronic asthma. It's like, what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to continue trying to work through this situation or make
And
it
push
better?
the pause button for a minute. Even without those chronic conditions, obviously those conditions, they really exacerbate the circumstances some more. But even without that, I mean, the conditions were pretty bad. They were pretty rough, like you said. Even inside the building, you could see the lights were getting hazy and stuff. There was that much ash in the air and smoke in the air because it wasn't just smoke you're dealing with. You're dealing with actual ash that was
Yes.
flying around. And so you guys, at some point, you put it down. You said, "Hey, we're going to throw down on this issue. Here's what it is, and here we're drawing a line in the sand." What was that like?
It was actually low key fun, just getting workers together and asking what you guys want to do, and they just like, well, some of us want to go home, but we need a stake, we need the money, and we're just like, with this situation, we can for surely force their hand to pay us and shut the building down. So I got a group of people together, a good amount of group, and other people from other departments felt the same way, and we all, were on the same page where we had over 100 or more people standing in front of the boss, like, we want to go home with pay, and you guys need to shut the building down because what you're doing isn't right, and people are suffering. You have ramp associates outside with N95 mask on, but the only way to get the mask is you have to sign a waiver. It's like, why should I sign a waiver for my safety? This is
Wow.
something you guys are supposed to be,
Incredible.
providing us without us having to beg.
Yeah, and then I'm giving away some right because you want me to put because I'm asking for a mask. I remember watching the video of you all coming together and holding your supervisors and supervision accountable that day. Very powerful. That was, those are moments where you're at the time that the situation happens, you're acting swiftly, stepping up to the plate immediately, as Arlene described here a minute ago. Let me just shift back to Arlene for a minute. What did that feel like, that moment that you were like, here's where it is, we're drawing the line in the sand. If you don't do ABC, we're shutting it down. And then them responding, how does that make you feel when that moment's happening on behalf of all the people you work with, Arlene?
Well, at that moment, I put logic out the door, because you're talking about storage. You could, it's, you could, me personally, the thing they were about to do, as we work on the third floor, you all can stay and work on the third floor. Ground floor, we will send home. No, it's not going to happen like that. This stench is coming from the ground floor to the third floor. So you're not going to let the third floor, who are away from us, from the church, work. And you say, no, it don't work like that. Because all they think about the dollar. Keep working, despite of keep working. It's not going to happen.
When it comes to safety, you're 100% correct, Arlene. You're right in the right space, and that's where you draw the line straight up, right?
Yeah. Yes, we have to, as our people in the building across America. It's very difficult. I understand when people say, it's the money. I have to pay my rent. I have to do it. But what comes of that? Put ourselves in harm's way for a dollar. That dollar would not help us if something go wrong with us. And this is what I'm trying to tell the people. The long term is very important than the short term. And going forward in JFK 8, there's no ifs, there's no ands. The position I hold right now is very important. And I, Arlene Kingston, going to do the best for my people in JFK 8.
Shaq, you still have more to the story here. Tell
Yeah.
us about that.
After that day itself of us shutting the building down, when we came back in 2 days later or a day and a half later, we had told them, like, it still smells the same. What are you guys planning on doing? So we made another march on the boss, and we told them, some people would like to go home, but they weren't trying to pay us. So they said that, well, since, some of you want to go home, you guys can come get VTO. We'll give you VTO and let you just go home for the day. And, but you just won't be getting paid for it. So some people did take the advantage of it and just said, I'll go home. Some people did decide to stay, but we let them know like our fight wasn't over. Like it's far from over. We have a lot more, you guys can do for us, and you guys know you can, and you're just being the greedy company that you are and just refusing to help the workers the way they need to be helped. Like it's more not just financial, just we just want stability. We want security. We want to feel like we can trust you guys. But the way you guys are acting and moving as a company, you're showing that the boxes are more important than our
Important, yeah.
lives.
Yeah, they have a tendency to do that over and over again. And I think that obviously, if you have a union contract, or once a union contract's in place, you don't have to feel kind of like you're on a limb while you're doing this, or you feel at risk. And quite frankly, you shouldn't even feel at risk while you're doing this, because this is all about safety to begin with. But I really think it's important for us to obviously focus on the fact that maybe what happened here in New York, in California, that these things are happening all over the system in one way or another. Maybe it's not raw sewage, it's not a fire that's happening a block or two away, but there are versions of this that are happening on a scale thousands of times over every single day in operations all across the systems. And what your story does, what you explaining how you handled this situation, is it shows other workers what they can do to shut it down, draw the line in the sand, put it where it needs to be, and say either this or that. In other words, we're not going to sit here and continue to put ourselves in jeopardy, put ourselves at risk, put our coworkers in the same space where we're at jeopardy, they're at jeopardy, they're at risk. What we're going to do is we're going to draw a line in the sand, and we're going to say, hey, it's time for us to do the right thing and protect these workers. It's incredible that a company this big and this profitable will run over people's safety like this. I guess my question to you, to both of you, is first, Arlene, let me ask you, if you would not have drawn a line in the sand, do you think they'd have tried to make you work right through that situation? Do you truly believe that?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
As Shakil said, the boxers get respect. We, the human, do not get respect. And that's my biggest problem with that. You know, people don't understand. I try to teach them. You have to stand together. A old saying, a closed mouth do not get fed. So when I ask and I keep them, I say when I ask and I come to you all and I tell I don't want, I need to stand shoulder to shoulder against Amazon, it's a must. This is how you have to eat, it's a must. Because Amazon takes advantage of our workers, that it's unbelievable that when you watch something is going on, what are you going to do about it? Me personally, if I see something is going on in my department, I go to the PA, this is what's happening, do something about it. A pregnant woman don't have a chair, she's at the end of the line, she's not supposed to be there. Bring her in the front of the line, get her a chair. Or she don't have accommodation. No, it's not going to happen. Nobody on a good title to work hard for the money and get disrespectful. It's not the same. Going forward, Amazon treats us, as Shakil say, the box. The box, before the box. But what happened when we get hurt on the job? What happened? We have to work through the pain. Some people can't even walk properly. Some knees are hurting after standing so long. Be reasonable. Work with us. Be producing. Work with us. And that they don't. It's all again about the mighty power dollar. So
And
going forward is not something to think about. It's nothing to think about. Do the do and act the act and get the decision done.
And I think you laid it out clearly. You're not a lone wolf here. Like this is a pack, and
Yes.
collectively as a group, when you make these things happen, that's when you actually get some good response. Most of the
Yes.
time, Shaq. Real quick, I want to shift back over to you because I want to point out. Do you feel like had you not drawn the line in the sand, this is a moment like what are you going to do about it, right? Like this is a moment where something happens, and the question to yourself is, what are you going to do about it? And you did something, both of you did something. My question to you is, how long do you think you'd have worked in that operation with that smoke billowing through and the ash and the clouds? The skies were becoming dark because it was crazy fires going on in the region at the time. It was insane what was going on, but yet you were still having to work through those conditions. Do you think that it made you continue to work through those conditions?
Honestly, I really do believe they would have had us working through until the fires was put out. It's no doubt in my mind. Like the way I've seen Amazon grow from a building that I've seen people, love to come to. This was the first job I've seen people actually smiling to come to work. And it's like over the years, like those smiles have faded. Like the smiles on the boxes haven't, but it's like our happiness, our joy is like it's not there no more. And I tell them all the time, like, that's something I miss, like, to the core, because this was the first job. When you come in, normally people are like, I don't want to be here. It was the first job I
It's
seen
true.
people like, oh, I'm happy to come to KSPD. I'm happy to come to work. I'm happy to, to enjoy time with friends and make money and go home. It's like we don't see that no more. And I just feel like how Arlie said, it's more of just Amazon is caring more about their boxes than our safety and our security. I just feel they can do better. I feel like as long as we stand as one, it's more of us than it is of them. So what are you guys gonna do? You gonna continue poking the bear, or you're just gonna give the bear what he wants to eat?
Our smiles, as time has gone on, our smiles have faded here at work.
Yes.
I mean, that's a very powerful quote. Obviously, we'll be able to go
Wow.
back in and clip you saying it and grab that moment. But I mean, man, that sums up a lot. It really does. I think that really sums up the journey of a worker in America, a worker at Amazon in America, where you come in, you're happy, you've got this job, you think it's going to have this great future. And as time goes on, that smile slowly then dissipates and fades away. And I think, in a lot of ways, Amazon wants to blame you for that, or say that somehow
Mhm.
you're the fault of that.
Yes.
But the reality is that's not the case. How it's really how you've been treated over time. Wouldn't you agree, Arlene?
Yes. 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 Um, certain departments, you will hear when people speak. You know, um, my department actually have people coming from all over to pack mix. And when we meet and we talk to each other, and then they come to pack mix, it's a different vibe because pack mix is more relaxed. We will go speak to each other, and the people in there welcome each other. I would. It is something that is, as Shaq said, we make people comfortable in pack mix. But when you go out of pack mix and you hear the cries of different people, you want to know if it's the same company we're working for. It's like, no, that don't happen. This happened. Okay, how should we fix it? You know, and it's ongoing battle. It's a ongoing battle. What I could take, some other person cannot take. I'm there for a reason, and I'm going to do what I have to do. But doing what I have to do is one thing. But when somebody don't have that voice, is there where I have to step in to give that person a voice on their behalf. So this is where my job comes in, whether with union or no union, to help people. I'm in a position to help people because I belong to the union, and I'm going to take it far and wide. Because half people just do not want, they're afraid to lose their job because that is the only means, and they don't understand how big this is. The internet is our union. And this is what people don't understand. And it's very deep because when I watch the company I work for, just watching JFK 8, It's a country I'm working for. When I walk that corridor on the third floor and I see that flags on the wall, is every imaginable country is working for Amazon. I'd have people in Amazon that are accustomed speaking out. The Haitians, they're not accustomed. Some of the African countries not accustomed. Some of the Asian countries not accustomed speaking out. So there is where I come in. They're afraid. This is the biggest money they have ever worked for. So they don't want to lose it. So this is where my voice and the union come in to protect these people going forward.
And that defines exploitation. When you really lay that out, and the example you just gave, where there's this concern of workers wanting to raise issues because in one case, I think the biggest thing that Amazon exploits is that not a lot of people from the industry that have been in the industry for a long time have transitioned from let's say a unionized environment over to an Amazon warehouse, or worked in the industry for a long period of time and then landed there to be able to hold them accountable. So what Amazon preys on is exactly what you just stated, is there's this level of fear, or the workers don't understand that they could speak out and say something culturally. What
Right.
you're pointing to is part of it culturally, is you just don't do that in that culture with that workplace, especially if you came from a country that was very oppressive on top of it, right? That
Yes.
doesn't mean that you're supposed to endure those types of situations here in America on top of it. Shaq, I want to shift over to Shaq real quick. What does this make you think of here when you're having this conversation and you're hearing this?
Without the tier ones, these boxes don't move, and this company fails to realize that. Like, a lot of things they feel start with them, but they gotta understand they start as a tier one at some point too. Whether it's as a manager when they were younger or when they got older, but most times whenever you ask a manager how long you've been a manager for, they will say like 3+ years. You ask somebody, hey, how long you been a PA for? It's only been a year. You ask somebody how long they've been a tier one, they're definitely gonna be able to tell you like, hey, 7+
5
years,
years.
10+ years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I tell them, like, my experience since working, I'm not 31 right now. I've been doing nothing but warehouses since I was 19, and all I've done is tier one work. So it's like I can relate to all aspects. How managers feel, the mental drain. Some
Yeah.
PAs can feel the mental and a little bit of the physical, but most of the physical is what wears you down the most, and that's from tier ones.
I think for those of us that have been in this industry a long time, obviously my entire adult life, I've been dealing with the warehouse transportation industry, either working in it or representing it. And most importantly, helping workers organize in this industry. And, I look back on what industry standard was for over 100 years and recognize, first of all, workers are the ones who established that standard, not a big corporation. And whenever I hear these comments coming from Amazon, something to the effect of, we're already doing for these workers what the Teamsters promised that they're going to do. Not true, very false. First of all, this isn't what we're promising. What we're doing is we're educating workers on how to take control of their workplace, because the workers are the ones that are going to determine an industry standard. So in other words, if workers sit back and they don't draw a line in the sand and capture the moment and challenge one another, raise expectations, and inspire one another to do these very things you just described, then the industry standard will continue to deteriorate under Amazon's business model, which is clearly of exploiting people on a very large scale. Because whenever Amazon points to them doing what the industry is, or that they know better, you got to look at their track record and recognize that these scenarios and situations are not accepted in the industry. First of all, they pay well below what the industry has paid for a very long time, which is why they exploit new groups of workers, whether they've come from another country, another culture, or that they're 18 and they're just coming into the workforce, or that maybe they worked in another industry, coming new into the industry, and that you just don't get a lot of people that are brand new, or that have a lot of time in the industry that land in these operations, because industry standard is this very important comment, phrase, subject that Amazon wants to drive it down. Workers make less money, have tougher working conditions, and quite frankly, Arlene and Shaq, as you guys explained it, a very exploitive model, right? Like it just, I mean, I think it just really defines exploitation. And I guess my question to both of you is, and I'll start with you first, Shaq, is how do you challenge your coworkers to do more of this? Because clearly you guys have already done that. You're doing that. It's happening. And then now, you obviously just got to keep ramping it up more and also raising expectations. And the last thing I want to point to is you understand that you're an inspiration to millions. Millions of people are paying attention to this. Millions of people have viewed your videos, have viewed your actions and activities, and millions of people have said, hey, that's something that needs to happen in this industry. What do you got to say about you challenging your listeners, co-workers, the industry, your company? How's that make you feel, Shaq? Let's go to Shaq first.
I'll just start with this. I just feel like regardless of which company you're working for, whether it's Amazon, UPS, FedEx, anything, it's just you gotta understand it's more of you than it is of them. Your safety,
Correct. You've already won.
your security is worth more than their boxes
That's right.
because boxes can be replaced. You can't.
That's correct.
So it's kind of like just like a life lesson. It's just stand up for what you believe in, stand up for, each other, and you'll be successful at the end of the tunnel.
Very well put, Shaq. Arlene.
Well, see, when people are broken, they don't understand how to get themselves back in order. We are broken in Amazon. A lot of people is broken. So they don't have the knowledge to realize that I could mend this and get the results. We going forward as Amazon workers is in our hands. As Shaq said, the tier ones, the power is in our hands. And my people where I at, they're getting the message, slowly but surely, that if we as a body cannot do this, no one will do it for us. So going forward, we are a family. Family is broken, but we have to stand shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, and take this down. And I mean, really and truly, with this last round that I'm in here, I see my people coming together. All creed and race, we standing and bonding together. And that is very, very powerful in my department. So we will take this. Somehow we will take this. Might be tomorrow, might be a week, might be a month, might be the end of the year. But the people intend to fight, and we're going to stand as a body to take Amazon where we have to take them to the knees.
And you guys have been doing it on a very large scale all over the country. It doesn't seem large when you're doing it a little bit here, a little bit there, but the totality of this is growing by the day.
Yes,
and I think that it's important for everybody to kind of recognize that and get their head wrapped around this, that more and more workers, thousands of them, are recognizing this journey and recognizing what they got to do on this journey. And we've just had this show. Obviously, as I wrap this up, I really think it's important to kind of detail the things that we just covered. Number one, there was these massive fires that were happening in Southern California where there was obviously smoke, ash, pollution pouring into an Amazon facility. Workers put it down, shut it down, and said, this is the way it's going to be to have a safe environment. And the employer didn't have any choice but to acquiesce and come to their senses and shut the operation down, and the workers got paid. You had the other situation at JFK 8 in New York where raw sewage was spilling all over the place. And, oh, no, we're assessing the situation. And as more and more, came out and spilled out, and obviously anybody who's been around something like that knows how bad it could smell. Imagine it in a big building where thousands of gallons are pouring out all over the place because there's an issue. What happened? Workers came together, set it up, and said, hey, you got to, assessing's no more. You got to make a decision. You either fix it now or we leave. And you guys decided to leave. You shut it down. Those were your words. I didn't even put those words in your mouth. You're like, you either fix it or shut it down, which was a perfect phrase. We actually got to take that little clip and utilize it because you hit the nail right on the head. That is where the power is. And Shaq just said it a minute ago. He explained, like, there are more of us than them. In other words, there are more workers than they have. And the workers are more important than the boxes. The workers are more important than the machines. And the reality is workers have already won this journey because you already occupy all of the spaces in which there's control over the operation, 100% of it. So in other words, workers have complete control of the operation. They have complete control of how things move, how they get in the building, how they get out of the building. And when workers exercise their power like the two of you did in those situations, you win. What a great job you have done leading your coworkers. You're an inspiration to others. We appreciate you coming on the show. Any last words, Arlene?
My last words, really and truly, I stand for what I believe, and nobody going to shake me. My stake in this is really to fight Amazon. Before I became a union member, I took that on my shoulders. Now that I'm a union member, I'm going to make my voice be heard, strong, going forward, and roll up wherever I have to go to help my workers going forward.
Shaq, any last words? How would you like to close this out?
I would just say, regardless of who you are, regardless of what race, whatever company you work for, if you feel like you're alone and you don't feel like you have a voice, your voice does matter. You know, a lot of people would say, you know, Amazon is way stronger than you. They're only stronger than you if you stand alone. But if you stand with your workers and stand with people that have the same beliefs you do, it's more of you than it is of them, and they have to listen. And if they don't, shut it down.
Yeah.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself. That is exactly what made me fall in love with this movement more than 30 years ago, more than 3 decades ago, was seeing that workers had that power and workers were always going to do what was right by one another and take care of each other. What another great show. Thanks for joining us, Arlene, Shaq. We really appreciate you sharing your journey, sharing your story, and explaining how you're inspiring millions of other workers to do the same thing. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Instead of us, they rather pay for union busting. Somebody said the working man a sucker. They took the stand and ran like a high jumper. Teams is local 804, we not having that. We gon' stand here and fight for fair contract. Fair wages on the